Okay, welcome back, everyone. Who should we have here? Back with us again is Saint Murad. Welcome back, Murad.
Hello, Mel. It's always a pleasure to be with you and with the people of Islamic origins.
It's great to see you again. I don't know how long it's been. It's been a few weeks anyway. Uh, s- and you've been busy, I know, on your channel, and I've been kind of busy on my channel with the focus on Malta at the minute. But today we're going to kind of go back to the good old days where we're kind of exploring new territory. And today we're looking at Surah 17, Bani Israel or Al Isra. Now, for the audience, what do these terms mean? These are Arabic terms. So what's your rendering of these?
Well, you see, in Arabic, Bani Israel, it means the sons of Israel, not the children, the sons, only sons of Israel. And
Yeah,
Al-Isra, in my translation, it's the marching on. So when you do Isra, you march on like an army. This is
right.
the meaning
So
of the two words. Yeah.
that's interesting. Yeah, because the the translation I've always seen for Al Isra is it's the night journey, but what you're saying it's much more a military term, the marching on.
Yeah, a journey would be rihla. It's also in the Quran. But
Yeah,
Isra, Asra, it's walking in like marching
yeah.
on and on.
So it could be used in the context of conquest, perhaps, if a military was gaining ground to be marching on, something on those lines.
No, in the Quran, this word is always connected with the sons of Israel. So
Yeah.
it means march on as the Exodus. Just keep marching
Okay.
on.
Oh, as simple as that. Okay, that's
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah. So these two terms are really connected, and they're both connected to the story of Exodus. It's not like one is an alternative or anything like that. It's in or something entirely different. They're actually both relevant to the Exodus.
Yeah, when I did my Quran concordance, of course, I then came to this conclusion. This word Isra is always mentioned with the sons of Israel because it has to do with the Exodus.
Right. God. This is actually new to me now, this bit. I wasn't expecting this. I thought you were just going to give us the standard Islamic narrative version, which is the night journey, but no, you got me there. Um, so it is actually something entirely different. That's amazing. So we're looking at these titles. The when I started this exploration, it actually happened as a result of a discussion I had with Lloyd Young on his channel a week ago, and he mentioned about pre and post 1948 Qurans, and mentioned that basically after 1948, um, the Qurans have Al Isra but not Bani Israel, and that's where it all started. And I was thinking, well, 1948 was when the state of Israel formed. Has that got something to do with? So that's where the impetus for this research. So I've done a bit of research. You have also done a bit of research on this, and we've combined forces here on this one. Okay, so without further ado, so this is essentially the thesis. Um, Before 1948, Surah 17 was commonly, though not exclusively, known as Bani Israel, and then after 1948 became almost exclusively known as Al Israel. Now that's my understanding of it. Would you concur with that, Murad?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Um, so it's like when I first started it, I thought maybe it was just a bit more black and white that before 1948 it was Bani Israel, and then afterwards it became Al Isra. But actually, it's a bit more nuanced. Both terms were used prior to 1948, and then it just flipped from being predominantly Bani Israel to predominantly Al Isra. That's how I see it, at least in terms of what I've found so far. So let's carry on. I found this translation of the Quran into English, 1734, George Sale, and certainly finding this assured me that Surah 17 was also called Al Isra prior to the 20th century, because obviously I'm very suspicious. I'm wondering, was it really called that prior to the 20th century? But at least this is evidence that shows that, yeah, going back a number of centuries, it was called that. Do you have any comments on this part?
Remember the word al-Isra, it never means the night journey.
Yeah,
Never. This is an
yeah,
assumption that they
yeah,
give to the English audience. This is commonly known to fool the English audience. So
yeah,
al-Isra in Arabic, if you want to twist it, you could say journey. But night
yeah,
journey, this is just a standard Islamic hoax
yeah,
manifesting again.
yeah. And it's as far back as the 18th century, so it kind of shows that the even non-Muslims were uh, taking an eye of what the commentators had to say, which I take probably are the tafsirs. They're looking to the tafsirs and seeing how they interpret it, and then just basically translating it that way to fit in line with it. Um, so it's not just a recent phenomenon that the standard Islamic narrative has got a tight control. It's going back quite a bit, I would say. Um, Now, al-Bukhari calls it Bani Israel. Now, I'm not suggesting that al-Bukhari was when he said he was meant to be alive, or even if there was such a person, but purportedly he lived from 810 to 870 AD, even though I don't think we have a copy of his work from way back then. But in any case, there in the Hadith, you can see there's that Bani Israel is mentioned. Any comments on that?
Yeah, if you look in the Arabic, which is at the right, it says لا ينام حتى يقرأ بني إسرائيل. So he would not sleep until he reads Bani Israel. The word Surah here, they added it to English to give it context. But it's
Yeah.
just important to tell you that in the Arabic, it doesn't say Surah. It just says Bani Israel.
Hmm. It's interesting, yeah. So if you look at the right, you have the tafsir of Surah al-Isra. So this is the title given to it by Ibn Kathir, presumably. But in the internal text, because he's quoting Bukhari, he's quoting it as Surah Bani Israel. So that's kind of peculiar. Any thoughts on that one?
Well, remember, at the time of Muhammad, if he existed, then he would not recite Bani Israel or Al Isra, because back in the day, when you look at the manuscripts, you know that it never had any surah names. So this whole
Yeah.
thing is late. This whole thing.
Oh, that's interesting. I never thought of that. So the titles were given lately or
Much
later,
later, much later.
much
Look
later.
at Sana'a manuscript and others.
Yeah. So this is artificially this all like this Buhari and Ibn Kathir, they're artificially putting the surah title into the mouth of earlier people, for example, Ibn Masud, in order to make it look like these titles already existed back then.
Of course, and this Ibn Kathir guy, he had almost a complete Quran in his hand, which means he had a Quran that's very, very late, post medieval times, because it had
Yeah,
surah titles.
yeah, yeah. So so we're really, I think we're seeing this practice of retrospection where they're projecting back into earlier centuries. This is the common theme of the standard Islamic narrative. Um, so I suppose the key one here would be the Cairo edition 1924 and how it depicts the surah title. So I found this from Corpus Coranicum, and this is the facsimile of it. Um, Now, not being that familiar with Arabic, of course, I've done an AI translation of this to find out which it actually said. Just before I go on to the next slide, are you able to read off its title?
Yeah, it says Surat al-Isra Makkiyya, meaning Surah Al-Isra, which is from Mecca.
Okay, so I've made a mistake there. I have Bani Israel. It should be obviously Al Isra, correct?
Yeah, yeah, this the one I see now. It says Surah Al-Isra, Makkah.
Yeah. Now this is what the AI gave us. So it's Surah Al Isra, as you said. Not sure how reliable it is with the rest of it. It does translate children of Israel, but as you said, it actually should be sons of Israel there.
Yeah.
Okay, so at least we know 1924, that was what the establishment was suggesting is the title of the surah. So Al Isra. Okay. Um, Now, if the Cairo 1924 edition does say Al Isra, why do the translations that follow immediately translate Bani Israel as the title, or words to that effect? This is strange. Presumably, they're using the Cairo edition. They're obviously remembering the traditions that go before 1924, and they're basically, as you'll see here, they completely disregard the title given by the Egyptian establishment, as you can see here. So Marmaduke Pickthall, 1930, he's obviously uh, not looking at Al Isra, but the children of Israel, so Bani Israel. Any thoughts on that?
No, it's just that it was famous back in the day to have it
Yeah,
as the children of Israel.
yeah. So that actually would have superimposed itself onto onto their treatment of it. Even if the actual Cairo edition says otherwise, they're going to obviously lean on the tradition somewhat there. Here's another example. Again, this one is well, actually, this one is 1917. Okay, so this is the uh, before the Cairo edition, so a few years before. Malani Muhammad Ali's translation, 1917, and you can see it's translated here into English as the Israelites, so it's Bani Israel, presumably, is what they're looking at. Okay. Um, so this one is before the Cairo edition. It would be interesting to see which Quran was being used for this one to translate it. I don't expect you to know this, but any thoughts on this?
I do not know, but what you are showing here, it shows us something that the Cairo edition was not as authoritative as we think. So even till 1924, it was
Yeah,
still like sticky mud that you still can reshape.
yeah, yeah. Let's have a look at another translation. Now, this is the Holy Quran by Abdullah Yusuf Ali, 1934, and is widely known. This widely known translation uses Bani Israel for Surah 17's title. As you can see there, it's given there as the children of Israel, or Bani Israel. So that's 1934. Now, what's interesting, it's contradicting the 1924 one. It's pointing back prior to that to the tradition. Um, so now Israel puts a cat among the pigeons because in 1948, David Ben Gurion proclaims the new state of Israel. So Israel forms the state of Israel. Um, what would likely have been the impact of that on the Muslim world, Murad?
Well, I do know the answer, so I do not know if you want me to just say it.
Well, maybe not so much for in terms on the Quran, but much more widely on the viewpoint of Arabs and the Muslim world in general. Like, how would they have felt about Israel forming its own state, and what kind of a position would that put Arabs in, especially Muslims?
Well, they felt a massive defeat. They felt that God is angry at them, and they
Yeah,
felt that they should very quickly eradicate this state as quickly as
yeah,
possible. So they did so, and they went to a lot of failed wars with it, and they failed miserably. So they were
Yeah.
very angry, they very bitter, like you can't even imagine. Like this guy that you have down left.
Yeah. I'm sure it would have called into question their actual beliefs because this was not meant to be the way things were meant to go. The Islamic world was meant to expand. It its hegemony should have continued to grow and expand. And Israel basically threw a cat among the pigeons here. I would think. Yeah.
Yeah, so it changed a lot of people's minds. Some people turned atheistic, communistic. Some people turned more Islamic. So it was a huge deal for the Arab world.
Yeah. Okay, so back to Surah 17 then, just thinking about what happens after 1948. We start with a non-Muslim translation of the Quran. Ar Arthur J. Arbery's translation, it was done in 1955. He's continued the tradition of Bani Israel. He's no agenda, obviously. He just translated according to tradition. Um, and then a later one, there's probably others subsequently, or what have not been able to find all of them. I've just given you a selection. But Muhammad Assad, The Message of the Quran, 1980, you can see that it's now Al Isra, The Night Journey. Uh, Abdullah Yusuf Ali's translation then gets a 1989 update. If you remember, it was called Bani Israel in the 1930 something translation. Now it's changed to Al Isra, and uh,
Yeah,
and then
but
we,
uh, but
yeah,
can we just go back to Muhammad Asad?
absolutely, yeah. Let me just go back to here. Yeah,
This guy, he is a Muslim convert.
yeah.
Originally, he is a Jew, but when he converted to Islam, he started to become more anti-Semitic, which is the
Oh,
usual.
yeah,
So, of course, he would choose Al-Isra even if he had Bani Israel. This
yeah,
guy in particular.
yeah.
So
So
it's
he's
just
not going to.
important to tell the people this part.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So he definitely he want to expunge any Jewish connection here.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah. So we also have the Noble Quran by Dr. Muhammad Taqiyuddin Al-Hilali and Dr. Muhammad Mushin Khan. I'm sorry, I've murdered their pronunciation there. 1996. And you can see Al-Isra. Um, we also have Sahih International, 1997. Again, it's Al-Isra. You would think it was never called Bani Israel at this stage. And the Clear Quran, again, Al Isra. These are all the big ones over the last few decades, and they're all consistently translated solely as Al Isra. Now, there are some exceptions, but you can see the predominant choice is Al Isra. Any thoughts here before we go on?
yeah. The usual Muslim today, he doesn't know that it used to be called Bani Israel. This is something very critical
Right, I didn't
because,
know that.
yeah, never. The usual Muslim, this average Muslim,
Yeah,
never knew or never knows that it was called Bani Israel. Who knows? Maybe a Muslim who is like 80 years old, who lived before Israel,
yeah,
before it came to existence, or someone who is very old. But the usual Muslim of today who is 30, 40, he never knew that.
yeah. Mm. So this last translation there is 2012, so you're just talking 10 years ago. You can see it's really up to now. Now it's over to your part here.
Yeah, this is just a rare pre-1948 Arabic Quran, and as you can see, it has Bani Israel on the left. You see, even the way it's written, it's very weird. This is weird Arabic, but it says Bani Israel, and I noticed even in the title it says وآياتها إثنا عشر, and it's ayahs, its verses are 112. This would be maybe one verse extra here. You see?
So am I understanding you right? Are they including the title as an extra verse?
No, because it doesn't have a number. The title doesn't have a number, as you can see here.
Right.
So, anyhow, it says Bani Israel. This is a pre 1948 Arabic Quran. And if you go to the next slide, it says here Surah Bani Israel, and this is just in the beginning of the Quran. Of course, you
Yeah.
might say this is normal. No, for a Muslim to see this with his eyes, that it says Surah Bani Israel, is something of very huge magnitude, just like when Hatun showed the 37 Qurans. This is very strange for a Muslim to see Surah Bani Israel.
Can I just check with you here? I notice here the bit in red, which I presume you've marked in to point it out. Um, it says 16 rather than 17 next to it. Am I reading that correctly?
No, this is Arabic, and the way it's written 17 here is very weird. It's as if this the English 16. This is some of the weirdness of the pre 1948 Qurans. So
Right.
till these days, Arabic was changing even in the numbering and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
that is very
yeah,
yeah.
very weird.
So it's yeah, it's very odd. Yeah.
Yeah. This is and yeah, you got this. This is Ibn Mas'ud's opinion. Uh, it says, and if you put the English, Abdullah said, Bani Israel and Al-Kahf, which would be Surah 18, and Maryam, I think this is 19, and Taha, and Anbiya. They are of the ancient ones. They are of the classic ones. I'm the one who translated this. So, but again, remember that how the Quran started without any surah titles. So this is the first phase. Second
Yeah.
phase, it was called Bani Israel, meaning the sons of Israel. And the marching was just talking about these people, their exodus. Then
Yeah.
at a later stage, they said Al Isra. So you have Al Isra and Bani Israel. It keeps going from this to that, but it means Muhammad's night journey. Then after 1948, it was almost like a global consensus that you never add the name Sons of Israel as a surah name because then it will make Israel feel stronger in
Yeah.
the region. This is the reality of the situation.
Of course, the Quran refers to Israel and the sons of Israel multiple times, but does it ever actually mention Palestine?
No, never, never.
Yeah, so that's quite another kind of embarrassing detail. Um, so obviously, modern Muslims don't want to hear about Israel. They don't want to know or even share that Israel is shown in a predominant position in the Quran. That's a really strange one, isn't it?
Even though the Quran, it clearly gives the land to Israel. This is something that you cannot argue against. But they can only play Muslims. They wish they take these verses out of the Quran. They couldn't. The only margin they could tap dance in is the surah names. So
Yeah,
definitely they chose Al Isra, which would mean the night journey, uh, fraudulently, of course.
yeah.
So and they keep out the name Sons of Israel, especially after 1948. This was like a general consensus. This is something that not a lot of people know about. It was not like a government issued legislation. It's just a general consensus. All
It,
Muslims just did that.
it seems like I can imagine there was a massive aversion to anything that's bigging up this the the men of Israel, the sons of Israel. So I can imagine that yeah, that's the last sort of title you want in a surah. So if you're creating a translation of a Quran, you obviously are you're going to try and make a popular one, and it's definitely Bani Israel would be not a popular title to have in your surah. So that's interesting. But I think from what you've said, there was a gradual evolution over the centuries. And there's a political evolution going on, but there's a linguistic evolution in terms of the meaning of the words and the understanding of what a particular ayah is referring to.
Yeah, and today, if you ask a Muslim today, and you tell him that this surah actually used to be called Bani Israel, he will say you are a kafir because the Quran doesn't have Israel. It has Al Isra of our holy prophet. So you see, as time goes on, the myth solidifies. It
Yeah,
becomes like a totally new religion. So, of
yeah,
course, they removed it after Israel came to be.
yeah. And of course, the 1924 Quran, it's basically that was like a marker in the sand, and it's almost like the any Qurans before that did never existed, and that became the standard. And of course, the ideology that said the Quran has never changed would reinforce the idea that this is the only title that's ever been there. Okay, so let's go on to the last slide now. So prior to 1948, translators varied as to the title of Surah 17. After 1948, Surah 17 became exclusively called Al Isra with Muslim translators. And that's, I think, the key thing. There was a political, uh, what would be, tsunami in 1948 with the State of Israel. And I think Muslims were delirious about that and definitely didn't want to have Bani Israel in the title. So that's it. Any any final thoughts?
Yeah, it's just important to tell the people that Muslims today, if you tell them, well, this surah it used to be called Bani Israel, they will say you are a kafir, and because they lost it. But actually, it was a general consensus among all Muslims right after 1948 to choose the name Al Isra, which was not the popular name for the surah,
Yeah.
just to run away from Bani Israel. You know, Donald Trump, when he won the first term, I remember a lot of people they used to say, we want to edit out the parts from the movie Home Alone where Trump appeared. You see,
Oh yeah.
it
Yeah.
was very desperate, but that's the idea. So it's the same thing with the Muslims and the Quran and Surah 17. Right when 1948 Israel came to be, they edited out the name Sons of Israel and then they put Al Isra.
Excellent. Well, just one final thing. How is your Quran translation going these days? It's a lot of people are getting hold of it, I believe.
Yeah, I think close to 300 people got it, and
Excellent.
I'm getting a lot of feedback. Some people are very excited about it. Some people are angry. They told me, Murad, it doesn't sound nice. It doesn't flow nicely. I
Yeah.
tell them, good. It is like that in the Arabic because this is exactly what you get in the Arabic. Yeah, so now that you have skimmed through my Quran translation and you checked it in a lot of passages, what do you personally think of it?
I think it gives me a more reliable sense of the original. I know some people have said, "Oh, it sounds clunky," but actually, that's the whole point. That's how it is in Arabic. It's very clunky. But I think you've exposed the archaic meaning without the illusion of extra meanings that often the current translations give. So I think that's very useful for me because then I know I'm on firmer ground to be able to draw conclusions in terms of what the overall meaning is. So I think it's highly, highly useful, especially for people like myself just trying to figure everything out. Um, but I think it really exposes the fact that Islam has evolved away from its origins so drastically that most Muslims don't really know what the text actually means, even if they're Arabic speakers. And maybe that's something I'd like to ask you. Why is it that Muslims today, even those that speak Arabic, can't see what you see? Is that because the narrative is so strong, or is it that the language has changed so much since it was written?
Well, it has multiple layers. One thing is that um, we are used to the Arabic that we speak. So, for example, if someone is from Saudi, he doesn't speak the same Arabic as someone from Yemen or someone from Bahrain, stuff like this. So, every person, he assumes that the Quranic word means it in his dialect. So, this
Yeah,
is a big mistake. This is first thing. So,
yeah,
actually, when you read an English Quran, I know that, yeah, this guy, this is a Saudi because he is making the same mistakes as Saudis. This guy, he's an Egyptian. He is assuming the same Egyptian mistakes because he is translating using his dialect. So, what
yeah,
I have done is that I ignored my own dialect. I uninstalled the language from my brain and I just went back to the Quran and see the word how it means in every single context. That's why I came up with a lot of different uh, concepts and a lot of different words that the Quran is actually using. So I could convince someone who is from Saudi and Yemen and Iraq, I could convince them all that the word that I have chosen is the correct one and not their word which they use in their own dialect. Now, how can I do that? It's because I will show them that this word fits like a puzzle in every single context in the Quran. So when the Quran says this word, it means the author intended just one thing or maximum two things because he was primitive, you see? So people, because they just use their dialect, they make the Quran larger than life when it's not like that.
yeah, yeah. And I think the fact that you're using a concordance, I think that stops you and others from making the mistake of thinking that the meaning is how you see it within your dialect. It basically makes it far more objective contextually. Okay, what is the meaning in each context that it's been used? And I think that's the way to go. So thank you, Murad, for stopping by. We must uh, collaborate in the future as soon as possible. So maybe in 2025 we'll do some more videos together. What do you think?
Yeah, for sure. And 2025, I think it's gonna be the year because I have a lot of surprises that I didn't tell the people about. So they should really be standby because
Cool.
I will give them a lot of surprises.
Yeah. Yeah, I know from what you've said without revealing too much, you have a database of material that's just waiting to be unfurled. So I can't wait for you to bring that out.
Yeah, I have a lot of hard drives that I just keep organizing because
Yeah,
it has a lot of gold nuggets back
yeah,
from the 80s all the way to now. So that's what I have.
that's brilliant. All right, with that, we're gonna close out. So thanks a million for dropping by, and we'll talk to you very soon.